Academy of Assassins is a smutty sexual power fantasy about— no, that's not fair. Academy of Assassins is a story of Morgan, a sympathetic Sue with no friend— Academy of Assassins, a book by Stacey Brutja, is a romantic urban fantasy drama about an assassin called Morgan Moran and the 4 or 5 meat slabs whom she can't seem to keep out of her pants. Wait. Yeah. AoA is a book, as far as I can tell, about the female hunter Morgan— pay attention, that's really important— being sent to the titular academy to uncover a conspiracy orchestrated by the powers of the primordial realm who also conveniently have ties to Morgan's elusive past. The synopsis may not sound like it, but this is first and foremost a romantic teen drama, as in the only time our protagonist isn't treated like a reject is when guys are falling all over her, and what story I could string together seems made only to serve the current testosterone-fueled conflict, whatever it is and however contrived it may be. There are 3 worlds in the AoA universe: R1, the Primordial Realm, and the Void between them. The Primordial Realm suffers an epidemic of vampirism and lycanthropy, so the denizens of the realm exile the contagious carriers through the Void to Earth, where they somehow survive their sufferings and live their life in their new, mutated forms. About 1,000 years later, the Primordial Realm starts to run out of magic, so they travel to Earth to take back all the vamps and werewolves and suck all the magic out of them. Interesting enough story, I think. Now watch as that quote ages like milk. Morgan Moran showed up in a forest near a witch coven with a power-limiting torque on her neck, runes carved into her back, and no memory of her past 10 years of life. McGregor found her and raised her to be a hunter, a largely male profession because the torque isn't coming off anytime soon, so the alternative of being a witch is closed off to her. Act 1. Morgan Moran and her hellhound companion Asher sneak out of a coven to help some meathead hunters that go by the names Draven, Ryder, Kincaid, and Atlas, none of which she's ever met before, take down a small imp. The hunters get blindsided by a minotaur and are hopeless in taking it down, so Morgan, from the shadows, sticks it in the eye with a throwing knife. She then runs off before she gives into her womanly emotions and throws herself at the brave, strong hunters. This is when she meets a wraith sent to capture her, and claim a bounty put on her head, meaning the wraith came to Earth somehow knowing she'd be at this exact spot at this exact time. The wraith, alongside the imp, attack Morgan. She deals with the imp relatively quickly, but the wraith nearly gets her through the portal to the primordial realm. Asher comes galloping through the woods to tackle the wraith through instead, and it closes immediately after, leaving him and it in the primordial realm. Morgan returns to the coven, distraught at the loss of her friends, and is spotted by one of the guards who tells her McGregor wants to see her. So she goes to McGregor's office and finds 4 people. McGregor, of course, Catalina, a giant golden dragon, and another giant golden dragon. I mean, they might not be giant golden dragons, but Stacey never gives us any details on them, or refers to them ever again, so I'm gonna say they're dragons, and you can't prove me wrong! Anyway, this Catalina character gets marginally more development in that she only exists to be the personified equivalent of 40 grit sandpaper glued to a rusty kitchen knife. After McGregor rightfully kicks the kitchen knife out, he tells Morgan about the invitations to the AoA he's been taking from a male for years, so he had the chance to train her himself. Rather than the appropriate reaction of, "You went through my mail? What the hell is wrong with you?" Morgan takes it in her stride, and instead questions McGregor on, that slight tension he has around his eyes, which prompts him to tell her about the murders she's being sent to solve. No, it's fine, just whatever. The next morning, Morgan gets sent through a mirror magic portal with weapons she isn't supposed to have into the academy, where the first thing she sees is Kitchen Knife bullying a feeble wizard. It's not really Kitchen Knife, but it might as well be because they're exactly the same character. After some time, Kitchen Knife realizes the story isn't going to move forward while she's there, so she makes a swift exit, allowing Morgan and Neil the feeble wizard to work out they're supposed to be roommates. Because Morgan is a hunter, she gets put in the predominantly male hunter dorms, with Neil, who is not a hunter. Neil gives Morgan a textbooks, a map of the academy, and tells her to avoid the basement, subtle foreshadowing, and leaves. Morgan looks through the case file and finds that the murdered witches are carved with the same runes she has. Then she looks through the provided textbooks and sees that it's written in an ancient language for some reason. So she starts translating it with her protagonist powers because that's something she can do apparently. She has less luck with the inexplicably confusing map, and when she tries trusting it, she ends up in the basement. What a shocker. In the basement, she encounters the primordial creature known as a Morpheus and chases after it before a hunter comes out of nowhere to stop her and send her out. At this point, Morgan has no idea where she is or should be going, and barring any authorial providence or unexplained navigation ability, I'd say her best hope is to— where'd she go? Oh, book. Let's see. Oh, next chapter. Let's go there and wait for her. So the next day, she goes to her first class. It's a lesson on sparring with Draven, Kincaid, and probably a few other fine meaty cutlets. Kincaid starts the class and singles out Morgan. In their sparring session, they spend far too much time talking about nothing at all, finally ending with Kincaid letting her join his hunting team for poorly explained reasons. Oh! It's because she's the main character, right. The Meatshanks continue beating up the rest of the students in the name of education until the end of the lesson, when they follow a surprisingly calm Morgan to her dorm. Then search it for weapons. I don't know. Then after they found all the contraband, they let her keep it anyway. I don't know. I don't. The day after, Morgan goes to orientation. Don't ask me why there was any class before orientation. It's just one of those things we just don't deserve to know. In orientation, we meet the headmistress. She isn't a prick to our main character, and that's the only important thing about her. As per orientation rules, Morgan puts her hand on a magic measuring stone, and because she's just so special, it explodes. Where's she gone now? Oh, Ryder might know. Ryder! You out here?
I found Morgan's throwing knife.
What?
I found Morgan's throwing knife. I found Morgan's throwing knife.
You found Morgan's her throwing knife?
Yeah.
Great, but what did I say about slamming people against walls?
Don't do it.
Exactly. So when you give her back the knife, what are you not going to do to her?
She was here.
What?
She let me keep the knife.
She did? Well, that's nice of her.
Yeah.
Wait, you didn't slam her against a wall when you saw her, right? Ryder!
I'm sorry.
Don't apologize to me. Apologize to her when you next see her, alright?
Yeah.
Good, now where did she go?
Cafeteria with Neil.
With Neil?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks Ryder. I like your dog.
It's a werewolf.
Yeah, whatever. So Neil talks with Morgan about nothing until Kitchen Knife shows up, insults Morgan and leaves. Morgan decides she's had enough of pointless faff for one day, so she goes to the gym, trying to find any plot with relation to the actual story. There, she finds Atlas, who proudly holds the title for the least interesting or developed main character in this book. Good on him. After Atlas finishes sparring with Morgan, Draven tells her about when she should be ready for the next story beat, which is a warehouse full of gremlins they need to clear out. Act 2. Kitchen Knife, Morgan, and her assorted pack of prime ribs arrive at the warehouse. The gremlins get an 18 on their initiative roll, so they use that turn to drop a few boxes and block off a corridor, separating Morgan and Draven from the rest of the group. Because as we all know, warehouses are just set out like mazes! Then, Morgan comes up with a plan that probably makes sense to someone, involving Draven being bait. So he wanders off and leaves her alone, inexplicably luring the vast majority of gremlins away from Morgan. I think it's meant to say something about sexism, but wouldn't they want to stick with the easy, womanly target if that was the case? Or is this a matter of being treated as disposable and religious? That would make Morgan the sexiest professional that gender wage gaps on the subject. It's signaling anything about what she was doing, so about the mouthfeel. It's dumb is all I'm saying. Morgan climbs up the warehouse shelving and begins her attack against the remaining gremlins. In the fight, she learns that loudly bashing the shelving hurts their sensitive ears, and takes off to find Draven armed with this new knowledge. She finds him, and they both get surrounded by gremlins, the idiots. Draven takes the time to ask Morgan what her actual plan was because it's clearly not going too well. Morgan replies that her plan is to sing. It gets worse. Draven is understandably freaked out by the sheer lack of thought that went into this idea, but Morgan ignores his valid protests and starts singing. The gremlins closest to them are pacified. Not neutralized by the noise or anything, but stopped in their tracks to listen, because that's apparently how sensitive ears work.